News Analysis by Tathastu ICS. I am Umang and today I will be taking your DNA session. So, before moving ahead, this is the QR code. You can scan and join the Telegram channel where you will get access to all the PDFs that we are discussing. Okay, and this is the front page of today's newspaper, right? Now, let's move ahead with the news or the topics that we are going to cover. Okay, so today is 2nd of July and we have 4 to 5 major topics that we are going to discuss. A very good evening to all the students who have joined. So the first one is जो पहला article हम करने वाले हैं, that is cabinet nod to job linked incentive scheme. Okay, so we will see what the cabinet has approved, okay, and what is this scheme all about. Then the second news is talking about costly lapses, that is talking about the incident that happened in one of the industry, okay, that we will see, and what was the compound that was there, that was being used in that industry. We will talk about that, okay. Then a look at India's sports policy journey. Sports policy journey हम देखेंगे कि what has been the sports policy of India, okay. So that is that was in the editorial section. Then we have one article from the science section that was mentioned, that is groundwater crisis deepens in Karnataka's hard rock terrain. Okay, so we will see about the groundwater crisis that is happening, what are the reasons, what are the solutions that can be taken care of. Okay, then there was one article that was talking about the reserved faculty posts are still vacant and out of reach. So here we are talking about reservation. There are reservations given for different categories and the people belonging to different categories in faculty positions also in universities, but there are a lot of seats that remain vacant. Okay, so what are the reasons for that and how can we overcome that? That is what is being discussed in this article. And the last topic is using technology to empower women and children. So these are the major articles that we are going to cover. A very good evening, Roshni and the other students. Okay, so let's move ahead with the first article now. The first one is from your syllabus of GS paper 3. So cabinet's nod to the job linked incentive scheme. Okay, so the union cabinet has cleared a significant employment linked scheme, ELI, that is called the ELI, employment linked scheme incentive, with a financial outlay of 99,446 crores. Now this initiative is aimed at what? What is this all about? ये किस लिए है ये scheme? To aim large scale job creation, particularly within the manufacturing sector. Okay, and it is also a component of the employment and skilling initiative which was there in the union budget of 2024-25. Okay, that was announced. So the ELI scheme is basically targeting approximately 3.4 crore new jobs will be created, right, over 2 years, with a special focus for the people जो पहली बार enter करेंगे workforce, first entrants. So with a special focus on the first time entrants to the workforce, people who are joining the workforce for the first time, the young people. It will apply to additional employment generated between August 1, 2025 to July 31st, 27. Of the total jobs created, 1.92 crores are from the first time workers. Now this is all data that is not important for us. The employers will also get some benefit. Okay, so the employers will receive an incentive of up to 3,000 per month, okay, for each new hiring that they are doing. So जो employers होंगे उनको भी कुछ benefit दिए जाएंगे जब वो new hiring करेंगे, like for a duration of 2 years provided the job is sustained for at least 6 months. Okay, for jobs in the manufacturing sectors, these benefits will be extended to 3rd and the 4th year as well. That is what we are doing कि हम manufacturing sector के अंदर growth उसको develop करना चाह रहे हैं. That is why we are trying to give benefits to the employers also, so that they hire new people and people get jobs. Okay, Now the employees with monthly earning up to 1 lakh will be eligible under the scheme. 1 month wage will be provided for the first time employees as a part of the benefits. The scheme is nested with a larger 2 lakh crore youth employment package. Approximately 4.1 crore individuals would be benefited from this. However, there are certain organizations, for example, the CITU, that is the Center of Indian Trade Unions, they have raised some concerns that this method or this scheme will be benefiting more or to the corporates, and it will be diverting the public funds towards employers without ensuring any of proportional benefits to the employees or to the people. So that is what has been mentioned by these are the concerns that are being raised by the trade unions. Okay. Yes, good evening Noor beta. Okay. Now what has been seen, इसमें हम देख क्या रहे हैं कि there is a shift in the policy. पॉलिसी के अंदर हम शिफ्ट देख रहे हैं. कैसा शिफ्ट देखा जा रहा है? दैट इट मार्क्स अ ट्रांजिशन फ्रॉम कैपिटल लिंक्ड टू एम्प्लॉयमेंट लिंक्ड इनिशिएटिव्स, इंसेंटिव्स. कैपिटल लिंक्ड, कैपिटल मतलब मनी. ओके, कैपिटल इज बेसिकली द कैपिटल लिंक्ड इंसेंटिव्स कौन से होते हैं? व्हेन द कंपनीज आर गिवन और द इंडस्ट्रीज आर गिवन बेनिफिट्स in terms of the new money that they are investing. For example, new infrastructure अगर वो बना रहे हैं, कितनी उनकी buildings हैं, ठीक है, that is called capital incentive scheme. In that, what are the incentives that are given? There are incentives in the form of tax benefits, there are incentives in the form of subsidies that are given. But here we are talking about employment linked incentives. मतलब कितना वो कंपनी एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेट कर रहा है उसके बेसिस पे कंपनी को इंसेंटिव्स दिए जाते हैं. हाउ मेनी पीपल दैट कंपनी इज हायरिंग, सो ऑन दैट बेसिस द कंपनी गेट्स सम इंसेंटिव्स फ्रॉम द गवर्नमेंट. ओके, सो देयर इज अ ट्रांजिशन और अ शिफ्ट इन द पॉलिसी फ्रॉम कैपिटल लिंक्ड इंसेंटिव्स टू employment linked incentives, and it is focusing on more labor intensive economic growth rather than just relying on heavy industries models. Right, then sectoral priority has been given. Manufacturing hub banana hai India ko, so we are focusing on that. So we are putting lot of efforts in the sectoral priority by giving the manufacturing sector a more extended benefits. Okay, aligned with the national strategies. For example, हमारा national mission है मेक इन इंडिया, आत्मनिर्भर भारत. तो ये तब भी बन पाएंगे जब हमारी कंट्री के अंदर हर चीज की मैन्युफैक्चरिंग बढ़ेगी. ठीक है. Then training the youth, treating the youth unemployment. So we are also targeting the first timers who are entering. Okay, it also addresses the rising youth unemployment directly, and we also have a targeted wage band that has been mentioned. Okay, along with that, workforce formalization, of course it will encourage the employers to have a formal system of enrolling the employees. So they will be getting linked to the EPFO, ESIC, so that they can get the benefits from these organizations, and this will be a formal hiring. Right, retention based incentives मतलब कि incentives जो है वो tied up है किस चीज से कि at least 6 month की guarantee है कि 6 month employment duration should be there. So this promotes what? This promotes job stability, and it discourages the short term एक्सप्लॉयटेटिव कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स. ऐसे कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स जो सिर्फ एक्सप्लॉयटेशन के लिए बनाए गए, जस्ट फॉर गेटिंग दी 3000 रुपीज. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, द कंपनी इज गेटिंग 3000 रुपीज फॉर अ पर्सन, and the company is not showing that in contracts, but the person is not working. Okay, so there is a 6 month tied up retention that has been there, and of course this scheme is coming on the grounds, on the basis that yes, we have the unemployment and the underemployment issue that is there in our country. Unemployment भी है, लोगों को रोजगार भी नहीं मिल रहा, and लोगों को उनके कैलिबर के अकॉर्डिंग भी रोजगार नहीं मिल रहा. Underemployment भी है. Okay, people are working under their potential. Okay, which is not appropriate to their qualifications. And we also have a low labor force participation rate, and of course high gender disparity is seen in the jobs. Okay, so this is a welcome scheme that has been there. Now these are other important things that have been discussed. So I told you the critics are saying that yes, it is going to benefit the corporates and it will there's a weak emphasis on the worker rights and empowerment. So they are talking that yes, we need to have a transparent monitoring of this, and we need to have effective grievance redressal mechanism. That is what is being talked here. Okay, so this was all in this article, but now I'll just show you the article also once. Yes, so this is the article all about, okay, the ELI scheme. Now coming to the next topic, that is the costly lapses. Lapse क्या होता है? Anybody who can tell me the meaning of lapse? Something has lapsed. So costly lapse, this article is important from your governance section and also from your disaster management section. So what has happened? The pharma plants should have a high level of safety culture. तो pharma plants के अंदर एक safety mechanism बहुत important होता है, and here they are talking about microcrystalline cellulose, MCC. MCC, which is a chemically inert compound that is being talked about. The human body उसको absorb नहीं करता, ठीक है, the skin does not react to it, but it is being used in several places in the cosmetic industry and in the pharma industry. Okay, so MCC is the thing that we are talking about. Now why this has been there? Because on Monday there was a pharma unit in the Sigachi Industries in Hyderabad where many people have died, and almost 36 have been died because of an accident that happened due to the faulty malfunction of the equipment. Okay, so that is the article that they are talking, and they are also mentioning ki we need to have a good safety mechanism in our industries and our factories. Okay, specifically the hazardous factories. Okay, so a devastating blast had happened at the pharmaceutical manufacturing unit of Sigachi Industries in Hyderabad, and it has resulted in the death of almost 36 people. And mostly अगर हम देखें तो ये जो लोग हैं जिनकी डेथ हुई, they are migrant poor people. Okay, migrant workers who are poor, right? And the plant was involved in the manufacturing of microcrystalline cellulose. So what is this MCC? This becomes important for us. It's generally inert in nature. Inert का मतलब क्या होता है? Something which does not react. उसको हम कहते हैं inert. Okay, so it is inert in nature, and it's a safe compound widely used in the pharma and the food industries also. So it's safe, but it's inert, and it is widely used in two sectors, food and pharma. ठीक है? Now it's a compound non-reactive with human skin or body, food, cosmetics. Why it is used? It is used as a binder, okay, as a texturizer, and also to increase the weight. Okay, weight adjusting agent for the dosage formulations. For example, every drug needs to have a particular weight, only then it becomes effective to function in the body. So as a weight adjusting agent it is also used. Okay, now despite being a benign substance, its manufacturing involves potentially hazardous process if safety norms are not followed. So iska jo production hai, although this substance is safe to use, but the problem is that the process is difficult. Okay, the process, if we are not following the safety protocols, the process will become difficult. Okay, and it can cause some security issues, and it can also cause damage to the human health. Now what are the details related to the accident that happened? And of course the accident details: the explosion occurred due to the suspected equipment malfunction. It triggered by the temperature built due to poor maintenance of the equipment. So यहाँ पर हमारे लिए क्या important बनता है? Number 1, इंडस्ट्रीज के अंदर जो हमारे इक्विपमेंट्स हैं उनकी रेगुलर मॉनिटरिंग होनी चाहिए, उनकी रेगुलर चेकिंग होनी चाहिए, राइट? सो पुअर मेंटेनेंस दिखाई गई. Victims are mostly poor and young migrant laborers from northeast and east India. Now Telangana government has also given ex gratia of almost 1 crore rupees, but we need to understand that those people will not get back their lives. Okay, money cannot replace the human. Okay, second, this is something which is recurring in the past few days, if we say, or past few months. Now such incidents have been happening at a regular intervals. For example, August 2024 में भी एक इंसिडेंट हुआ था फार्मा यूनिट के अंदर. उससे पहले आंध्र प्रदेश में भी अप्रैल में 2024 में there was some such kind of an incident that happened in the pharma unit. What we need to understand is that the pharma industry is very important for India because it brings lot of foreign exchange for us also, and not only for the foreign exchange that we should have a safety protocol, but to ensure the life of the people who are working, the workers who are working in these factories, we have to ensure that we have a good safety mechanism. Okay, so that is what second major prominent feature that we can notice, that these incidents are happening recurrently, and we have been observed previously 2-3 incidents have happened. इंडस्ट्रियल सेफ्टी के अंदर फेलियर्स दिखाई दे रहे हैं, जो हमारे प्रोटोकॉल्स हैं, मेथड्स हैं, उनमें फेलियर्स मिल रहे हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल द HAZOP, HAZOP, दैट इज द हजार्ड एंड ऑपरेबिलिटी एनालिसिस, they are often neglected by the industry owners or the management there. There are lack of qualified personnel to give the training. Okay, people or the workers are not trained to properly to work in such circumstances when there are certain incidents like this happening. Okay, so insufficient training, low safety consciousness among the operators and the management, and also real time monitoring is poor, right? These are the major things that are there in the industrial failures. And of course structural concerns are also there, because we lack a robust safety culture in the Indian manufacturing plants. We do not have regulatory oversight and the enforcement of the norms that are there. Companies are often ignoring the safety protocols also. We do have the Factories Act. We are also signatory to the UN Convention on the Occupational Hazard and Health, but still we are not. We also have the NDMA guidelines, National Disaster Management Guidelines भी है हमारे पास, but still हम देख रहे हैं कि इस टाइप के incidents frequently होते जा रहे हैं, right? And this is something very simple. I would say that in fact fire extinguishers, they are placed everywhere, but I don't think hardly few people know how to operate them. So it's a moral responsibility of the people also to learn the safety measures. Okay, so at least you all should also learn the safety measures which are around you, because you should not wait for the crisis to happen, for an accident to happen, then you will learn it. Okay, so there is a all the stakeholders need to have an action, and they have to take effort for this. Okay, now what are the broader implications that we can see? Of course there is a reputational damage that is there, because frequent industrial accidents अगर होंगे तो इंडिया की जो ग्लोबल फार्मास्यूटिकल इमेज बनी हुई है ग्लोबल लेवल पर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग की, दैट इज गेटिंग डैमेज्ड. दैट इज वन थिंग. वर्कर राइट्स highlights the need for stronger labor rights that are there and the protection that needs to be given them. Then governance gaps we can see, of course reinforces the urgency that we need to have at the state level industrial inspections, better ESIC coverage, better EPFO coverage, accountability mechanisms hone chahiye. Environmental concerns, although this compound was safe, but what if any compound, for example we have seen in Bhopal gas tragedy, है ना, methyl isocyanate was used. Now the effects of Bhopal gas tragedy are still there. Okay, the people who lived there, they know the reality. Now these factories where we are using such compounds, they pose a very big environmental risk also if they get leaked into the environment, right? So accidents also have a risk of chemical leak, contamination and the local ecosystem damage. So these are the broader implications of such incidents. And of course the relief money has been given. Okay, ex gratia relief means the voluntary relief money that was given by the people, okay, or the management, that is voluntarily they are giving. They were not bound to give that initially, but they have given it. but systematic reforms are required in the factory sector. That is one, that is number one urgent need, factories के अंदर security safety. The media and the civil society must also continue to scrutiny the pressure on industries and regulators that they follow the safety protocols. It is also a requirement from the workers that they should also have a conscious attitude and a mindset while working in the factories. They also have a responsibility of learning the safety protocols and implementing them. Third thing, and fourth is industrial growth should not come at the cost of human lives. There is an ethical dimension that the governments and the corporate responsibility must be enforced. Okay, so this is about the article that was talking about the costly lapses. Okay, now coming to the next article, that is a look at India's sports policy journey. Okay, a very good evening. Yes, Sumed. Okay, Sumed, Arzu. Yes, Hussain. Okay. Datraj Bhopat. Good evening. Yes, beta. Okay, you're right. Fine. A look at India's sports policy journey. So, how did India's sports policy evolved, right? So, we'll just have a look, when was the first dedicated department of sports created in India? Why did India's sports policy remain tepid while the global sport ecosystem in the 90s, 80s to 2000s? And how have Indian athletes evolved so far in the few days or in the few years? And does India has a chance of hosting any Olympics? So, that is what this article is mentioned. So, we will just see what they are trying to say. So, it's India's evolution in the sports policy mirrors its broader socio-economic journey from the early post-independence neglect of the sports to current efforts aimed at mainstreaming it as a national priority. Now, what are they saying? Initially, India mein, of course, we have our own trajectory. The country has its own trajectory. Okay, so initially, post-independently, अगर हम देखें तो we had our own socio-economic journey, and that drove the sports in our country also. So, from the early post-independence neglect of sports, initially sports was neglected because we have other major things in the country to be prioritized. Okay, post partition if we see, but now at this age, like in 2025, or I would say in the last 10 to 15 years, if we see, there has been constant effort to make sports as a national priority. And of course, we also have the Khelo Bharat Niti 2025. Now that is there. Okay, and now there are also efforts to include a formal bid to host 2036 Olympics. So, we will just quickly see the trajectory of India. Indian sports जो थे वो rooted थे in the survival oriented skills. Survival oriented skills क्यों? Because we know there were certain regions of India, for example the northwest frontier, from where we used to see that majorly all the attacks or the invaders used to come from that region. So, we usually see that the people of that region were good in their physique also, okay, and they were good in their health wise they were stronger, right. So, survival oriented skills were there and sports वहीं से derive हुआ इंडिया में. Wrestling पे बहुत focus था, swimming, archery, okay, and then after independence if we see, national attention कहाँ सबसे ज़्यादा गया? National attention हमारा गया poverty alleviation में, education में, health में, ठीक है. So, we were focusing more there and not on sports. Then we had the first national sports policy introduced in 1984. Along with that, we had the Sports Authority of India that was established in 1986, that is SAI. Okay. Then we had the dedicated Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports that was set up in 2000. And of course, post 2000, we have lot of initiatives. For example, we have another sports policy as in 2001. We have the National Sports Development Code. Then we have the TOPS. TOPS is what? It is the Target Olympic Podium Scheme. Then we have the Khelo India. We have the Fit India 2019. Okay. To back its 2036 Olympics aspiration, India has released a new set of policies, the NSP 2025. ये हमारे लिए इम्पोर्टेंट है, खेलो भारत नीति. ओके, यस, लेट मी सी, like great Shivaji, yes Shivaji, you are right. Yes, Hussain Saifi, you are right. Okay, so pre 1980s वाला जो टाइम था, era of policy apathy, sports received low policy and budget. ऑल इंडिया काउंसिल ऑफ स्पोर्ट्स इस्टेब्लिश हुआ 1954 में, जहां पर इंस्टीट्यूशनल सपोर्ट बहुत लिमिटेड था स्पोर्ट्स के लिए. ठीक है, देन इंडियन मेन हॉकी ने फिर भी टीम ने काफी अच्छा प्ले किया. देन 1982 से 2002 में we had the institutional backing or the beginnings that were there. So we had lot of institutes that were established during this period. Okay, 1982 Asian Games acted as the catalyst leading to the creation of Department of Sports. Okay, then of course earlier sports was a state subject, right? Then coming to the post 2000 reform area, so then we had the ministry that was established in 2000, then we have the NSDC that was established. Then India की जो ओलंपिक में achievements थे, उसके बाद बहुत ज़्यादा स्पोर्ट्स पर फोकस होने लगा. Like we all remember when Rajyavardhan Rathore won the medal, then Abhinav Bindra, Vijayendra Singh, Mary Kom and many other players who have contributed, and all the flagship schemes as well. Okay, now what are the critical issues identified? अब हमारे साथ issues क्या हैं इस मेजरली इस सेक्टर के अंदर? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, नंबर 1, पॉलिसी इनकंसिस्टेंसी एंड वीक एग्जीक्यूशन अक्रॉस लेवल्स. मतलब पॉलिसी जो है वो इनकंसिस्टेंट रही, और अभी भी अब तो लाइक वी हैव द न्यू पॉलिसी, वी हैव दैट इज द नेशनल खेलो इंडिया पॉलिसी दैट वी आर हैविंग, बट there was this major drawback of policy inconsistency and the weak execution across different states also. Execution भी अच्छे से नहीं हो रहा था, right? Bureaucratic interference was observed, okay, and doping scandals भी बहुत सारे होते थे. So doping is basically when they are using any particular chemical compound to increase their efficiency in sports. Okay, so doping scandals भी बहुत सारे players के अंदर we could witness. That is also one part of the sports segment. Age frauds were done. Okay, that was also there. India ranks among the top offenders in the WADAs, the World Anti-Doping Agencies, doping violations. Okay, damaging the global credibility. उससे हमारी credibility खराब होती है हमारी country के players की और in fact country की. Then the national sports federations also, they lacked the professional standards despite the NSDC framework, and insufficient public-private partnership and the minimal grassroots infrastructure. Infrastructural incapacity was also one of the major reasons. And also we have seen that there are certain sports that were not promoted by the people also, and I would say the society also. Okay, so certain sports were given more leverage above the others, but now we have seen, now hockey has revived, football, all different kinds of, kabaddi है ना, अब हम देख रहे हैं कबड्डी लीग्स भी होती है, हॉकी के भी मैचेस होते हैं, right? So now our players are getting all the infrastructural and the structural support from the government also, right? Now what should be the effective way forward? Number 1, we need to implement the NSP 2025, right, which has mechanisms for audits and also performance tracking of the players. Second, expedite the passage of the National Sports Governance Bill and the 2017 Good Governance Code. We need to have a scientific coaching for our players. That is important. Then long term sports infrastructure. ऐसा नहीं कि infrastructure बना दिया particular एक particular event के लिए हमने infrastructure बना के रख दिया and उसके बाद वो dismantle हो गया या public ने उसको खराब कर दिया. नहीं, we need to have long term infrastructure for the sports persons, okay, and they should be maintained also, right? But for public and school access, strengthen the fight against doping through education, rigorous training, testing and strict penalties should be there. Okay, so that is what needs to be done. And what is this policy all about? So what is the Khelo Bharat Niti 2025 क्या कहती है? Now these are all the major features of the Khelo Bharat Niti, right? So what are the objectives? Establish comprehensive sports programs for all participation groups, राइट, फ्रॉम ग्रास रूट्स टू एलीट लेवल्स. ऐसा ना हो कि प्लेयर्स के अंदर ही हम लोग बाइफर्केशन हो रहा हो, ठीक है. तो ग्रास रूट लेवल में जो नए बच्चे हैं, नए प्लेयर्स हैं, उनको भी इक्वल लेवल प्लेइंग फील्ड मिले स्पोर्ट्स में. दैट इज वन थिंग. ऑर्गेनाइज स्पोर्ट्स कॉम्पिटिशन एंड लीग्स एट वेरियस लेवल्स, राइट. इम्प्लीमेंट physical literacy initiatives to promote a culture of sports. Physical literacy भी important है. Then developed talent identification and development system. Talent को identify करना भी important है. Then equitable access to the sports infrastructure, provide athlete centric support systems, promote sports science, medicine, innovation. Then we have revamped the funding mechanisms. Okay, so these are the major features of the Khelo Niti policy. Yes, we need to have good coaches, good trained coaches. In fact, we can have coaches from other countries also, right? So these are all the features of the Khelo Bharat Niti 2025, and to ensure that our country has good players and all the players are getting equal opportunities, we need to ensure that we justify the guidelines or follow the principles of this policy in true heart and soul manner. Okay, so we have to ensure that सारे इसके जो objectives हैं वो हम उनको fulfill कर पाए, ठीक है. Then coming to the next article, that is groundwater crisis deepens in Karnataka's hard rock terrain. Okay, so they are talking about, this is the picture that has been shown. So because there was a recent study by one of the labs in the upper Arkavati watershed, that is in Karnataka. Okay, it has revealed some alarming groundwater depletion trends in the hard rock terrains due to over extraction, flawed borewell practices and unsustainable agricultural techniques. The findings underline the worsening of the groundwater crisis in India's Deccan Plateau. Okay, so this is the image. Now, what are the key points that have been highlighted from here? Number one, there is a geological reality of the Deccan Plateau. उससे पहले हम आते हैं एक term पे जिसे हम कहते हैं aquifer, aquifer or aquifer. Okay, so what are these aquifers? These are basically the natural underground layer of the water bearing rocks or the soil, that part that stores the water, groundwater. Okay, so that is our aquifer. Now, these aquifers provide the water to the wells or the bore wells, okay, or the springs, right. So, natural underground layer of water bearing the rocks and the sand or gravel, it stores the groundwater, and that water is flowed through the pores or the fractures in the rocks. ठीक है, through the pores or the fractures वो पानी, rain water gets percolates down and it gets stored in these aquifers. Now, these aquifers serve as the main source of water for the wells, bore wells and the springs. Now, what has been seen here, that number one, coming to Deccan Plateau, if we see geography में हमने पढ़ा है that they are dominated by the hard rock aquifers that are made of the granite and the basalt rocks, right. Then 99% जो कर्नाटका का water, कर्नाटका जो है, that depends on the on these formations for water. Now, Karnataka is almost dependent on these aquifer formations for its water need, right. Now, what happens, limited porosity की वजह से there is a water storage possible only in narrow fractures and weathered zones only, right, and poor natural recharge capacity compared to the sedimentary aquifers. Second thing, over extraction कर रहे हैं हम लोग, ठीक है. So, over extraction and the borewell failures. Farmers drill deep borewells up to 321 meter, altering the subsurface geology. Microfractures caused by drilling let the rainwater bypass the shallow aquifers, reducing the low water retention. I will explain this. What does this mean? When we are doing the drilling, जब हम drill कर रहे हैं, तो drill करते time we also drill the rocks. We are drilling the rocks only. So, we create minor fractures. So, micro fractures are caused due to drilling, and because of that, what is happening, that the fractures that are formed, वो जो छोटे छोटे crevices या fractures बनेंगे, उनमें rain water store हो जाता है, ठीक है. Now that was not a natural aquifer. That was not a natural aquifer. Basically aquifer में क्या होना था? It should have gone down and then from there it must have, it should be permeable enough. The rock should be permeable enough for it to get transported to the well or the bore wells that are connected. Okay, so but these micro fractures में क्या हो रहा है? ये bypass कर रहे हैं the shallow aquifers and they are reducing the local water retention, right? So what is the result of this? Annual drop in the water table and the failed borewells that we see. हम drill तो कर रहे हैं but पानी मिलेगा नहीं हमें, ठीक है? So they are called as failed borewells. Then of course water quality issues are also there. Nitrate contamination हमें देखा गया है in many of the borewells. Fluoride contamination is also there. Primary driver is the aquifer exhaustion because we are over exploiting the resources. Then rural infrastructure and financial stress is also there. So free electricity for the farmers is given. Now that is what, there is an overuse of the groundwater via the deep borewells. So क्योंकि free electricity मिल रही है तो farmers are making more borewells and they are extracting the groundwater. Then gram panchayats now face massive electricity debts. Then development funds are diverted now to pay the bills. Also state pressure to clear the dues despite the financial distress. And of course private drilling jo hoti hai, that cost almost in lakhs. So that is also bit expensive. Then unsustainable agriculture. All of this region we are growing exotic fruits and vegetables for Bengaluru. To cater to Bengaluru, we are growing all of this, and these are all high water consuming crops. Now that is also further depleting the water that was available. Okay, so worsening the condition that was there. No significant promotion of water saving irrigation or diversifying the crops that is done. Systemic and governance failures, if we see, panchayats have lacking the capacity to manage the groundwater as a common pool resource. Then urbanization and lake encroachment have destroyed the traditional recharge systems. For example, tank system. हमें पता है कि South India में आज भी tank systems are there for water conservation, but all of these because of human encroachment are not there, right? Similarly, that has happened in Delhi also. There were so many water bodies in Delhi, but majorly many water bodies have been encroached in Delhi also. Right, water resource management is also weak despite we having the investments like the Jal Jeevan Mission is there, Sujal watershed management is there, but still we are having lot of inadequacies to do that. Okay, no, I didn't have, it's just that that was, I am absolutely fine, don't worry, I just could not see the stage was there, it's absolutely fine, nothing to worry. So until the farming techniques change, no recharge effort can save the aquifers. That is important to what the expert has said. Okay, so we have to change the agriculture pattern also. Okay, we have to. I have checked the question. Okay, okay, fine. Yes, you can always check the pronunciations, right? Now what would be the broader implications? Local governments governance भी risk पर है, ठीक है? हमें policy जो है, there is a disconnect between the central schemes and the local needs. Every state has different needs. Then there is a rural distress and the migration related to that, and then ecological collapse because the lakes and the tanks are being encroached. So what needs to be done? We will have to find some, there should be some way forward. So number one, we need to have an integrated water management. So we have to link the water missions with the local recharge mechanisms. For example, जैसे tank system है तो उसको हम link कर दें for South India, right? जहाँ पर water step wells हैं तो उस चीज को हम link कर दें. So we need to link the water missions with the local recharge mechanisms that are there, right? So here we have to focus on the aquifers. Okay, specifically in Karnataka. Sustainable crop planning, encourage the low water crops and organic farming. Decentralized governments, empower the local governments with the groundwater data. We need to have the groundwater data of that state when we are making the scheme for that state. recharge with regulation, where we are focusing on reviving the lakes or the water bodies of that area and preventing the aquifer bypass. And then we need to have a metered usage of the energy. So, incentivize the reduced water extraction and rational energy use. That is the need of the hour. Okay. So, these are the major things that have been discussed in this article. Then the next article is the reserved faculty posts are still vacant and out of reach. Now, we know that India's commitment to ensure social justice is there, right, and that has been enshrined in our constitution, okay, where we are having which mandates equitable representation for the marginalized sections and the communities also in the public institutions. But what has been the trend? We have seen that despite the constitutional and the legal provisions for reservations in faculty positions for the SCs, STs, OBCs, EWS in central universities like AIIMS, IITs, a large number of these seats remain vacant. Okay, बहुत सारी जो seats हैं वो vacant हैं, right, and especially at the senior academic levels. And this is the data of the quota. So, this is the data that, like, this is the reservation quota for the faculty post. For example, for different categories it has been mentioned. Okay, and this is the position that as of 2021, 2,389 posts for the SC categories are left vacant. Okay, so this is the recent UGC data as well. Now, what we need to understand is, first of all, you all must be knowing what are the constitutional provision. Article 15 clause 4 क्या कहता है? For the to make the special provisions for the advancement of the socially and educationally backward classes. Then we have Article 16 clause 4, reservation in public employment. Then we have Article 46 of the DPSPs promoting the educational and economic interest for the SCs and the STs. And then we also have the National Education Policy 2020. वो क्या कहती है? That believes in inclusive education. Okay, it believes in equity and inclusion, and specifically it also talks about diversifying the faculty representation to bring inclusive education. ठीक है? So, जो faculty का pool है, that should also be diversified so that we have a learning environment where we can cater to all the diverse learners who are there in the class. Now, what have been the systematic barriers? ऐसा क्यों हुआ कि particular categories के लिए representation जब reservation था, so why they could not get the representations, or why those seats are vacant? Okay, so number one, autonomy of the institutions. Premier institutions are enjoying high autonomy. They have lot of power in them, like they have lack of stringent enforcement that is being taken care by them, right, for reservation and compliance by UGC. Then there was a controversial 13-point roster system also. 13-point roster system जो होता था, उसके according ये है कि now it treats the department as individual units rather than the whole university. Basically ये जो पहले system use होता था, इसमें for example when we give reservation we talk department wise, not university wise. Just a second. Give it so it is done department wise, not university wise. For example, if there are 13 posts, teaching posts in a department, okay, 2 of them will be reserved for the category person, for example for the SC and the OBC, okay, that will be reserved. But what about the ST category? What about the EWS category? They are left behind. Okay. Now, what happens? This system does not give a fair representation or fair reservation to or the other categories. ठीक है, बाकी categories को तभी मिलेगा जब वहाँ पर teaching posts 13 से ज़्यादा होंगी, तब बाकी categories को मिल पाएगा. तो फिर reservation करने का फायदा नहीं हुआ. And usually teaching posts जो होते थे वो 6 to 7 ऐसे ही होते थे department wise अगर हम देखें. But that has been replaced with a broader system that is now 200-point roster. Now it includes as a university level पर हम reservation को check करते हैं, not department wise, right? there was also a bias in the selection. There were the candidates who going for the teaching positions, they were rejected on different vague things. For example, candidates were rejected arbitrarily, ठीक है, they were said that you are not found suitable, you are not capable, इस तरीके की चीजें होती थी. Opaque and partisan practices were also there. Recruitments कभी कभी हमने देखा है, in many instances they were influenced by the political ideology also or the alignment also. Okay, and so these were the major reasons why this has not happened. Now what should be the way forward, or what should be the learning from this? How can we improve that, right? So strict enforcement, UGC and the Ministry of Education should have periodic audits, ठीक है, for the recruitment data. जो भी recruitment हो रहा है यूनिवर्सिटीज में, कॉलेजेस में, उसका भी periodic audit होना चाहिए, ठीक है, उसको पब्लिश करें. रिजर्वेशन एंड इम्प्लीमेंटेशन रिपोर्ट्स, रोस्टर सिस्टम को रिफॉर्म करना पड़ेगा. जो 13 पॉइंट वाला मैंने आपको बताया था, दैट हैज बीन रिप्लेस्ड बाय द 200 पॉइंट रोस्टर सिस्टम, जहां पर हम डिपार्टमेंट वाइज रिजर्वेशन नहीं देखते, हम यूनिवर्सिटी वाइज रिजर्वेशन को देखते हैं, ठीक है. वी डोंट नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड हाउ दैट इज डन, वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट यस नाउ इट हैज बीन रिफॉर्म्ड, राइट. बायस फ्री सिलेक्शन शुड बी देयर, कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग शुड बी डन, right. We need to conduct anti-discrimination training for the university administrators also, and we have to foster the constitutional values in their mind also. Okay, so political will and monitoring is the other thing that needs to be done, right. Now coming to the last topic, that is using technology to empower women and child. Now this is just the news article which I have mentioned. There is nothing to give elaborate detail about this, but we will just see what has been discussed here. Okay, so first thing that is important is this quote which you can take from this article, that empowerment begins with access. Empowerment begins with access, access to rights, access to opportunities and access to services. Okay, so here they are talking that using the technology we have empowered women and children in India. So majority of the government schemes जो आप run कर रही हैं, we are utilizing technology in the implementation of those schemes, and that has made possible for the government or the authorities to have a live tracking, to monitor the progress of the scheme, to ensure that the benefits of that scheme are reaching the grassroots beneficiary. Okay, and we are also trying to monitor the loopholes or the gaps that are there in the system. So they have mentioned so many schemes here. So for example, Poshan Tracker has enabled the real-time data entry, performance monitoring and evidence-based policy interventions. Then we also have by equipping the Anganwadi workers with smartphones and comprehensive training, the initiative ensures quality service delivery at the last mile. Then Poshan Tracker is also driving the national vision of Suposhit Bharat and Swasth Bharat. It has been linked with that. Okay. Then Poshan bhi, padhai bhi ek saath saath chalegi. To reduce the leakage in the supplementary nutrition program, a facial recognition system has been used. ठीक है, हम facial recognition systems को utilize कर रहे हैं. ठीक है, that has been introduced to recognize the beneficiary who is getting the benefit of the scheme. Then we have the She-Box portal, provides a single window clearance access to the every woman who lodges the complaints for the sexual harassment. Then we have the Mission Shakti dashboard, and the mobile app provides integrated assistance to women who are in distress, connecting them to the nearest police station or the one-stop center. Right? Then similarly in the Pradhan Mantri मातृ वंदना योजना, वहां पर भी हमने टेक्नोलॉजी को यूटिलाइज करा है. तो ये जितना भी हमने टेक्नोलॉजी यूज करी, नाउ दैट्स अ फुली डिजिटल प्रोग्राम और द स्कीम. Now we are getting tangible outcomes from this. Tangible outcomes, that outcomes we can see and witness. For example, we have seen that the sex ratio at birth has improved. Okay, the maternal mortality rate has declined. Right? Then the digital key has played a key role in the child protection and welfare also. For example, under the Juvenile Justice Act, the ministry has strengthened the adoption system. Adoption system को हमने improve करा है. We have a portal for that also. The Carings portal, the child adoption and resource information system and guidance portal. So this ensures a more transparent, systematic, accessible and efficient adoption process. Okay. So digitalization has improved the monitoring of childcare institutions, foster cares, placements and the statutory supports that are given under the Act. So this is all the Mission Vatsalya dashboard strengthens the convergence and coordination among various child welfare stakeholders. So these are all the examples which you can utilize in your answers when you are writing any answer related to the digitalization, or you can specifically, or the use of technology in governance. Okay. So this is all about the articles that we have discussed from today's articles. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Keep learning and keep revising, and I will see your, if there is anybody who has any question, just let me know. Anyone who has any doubt or any question which is left? Okay, thank you very much. See you tomorrow then.